Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pitts, Ukraine War Frontline update for the 29th of March 2024. I have been listening to some of my commenters in the threads today saying, get your limey arse on a treadmill, you need to make sure your health is looked after. As some of you know, I have primary progressive multiple sclerosis and I need to do more exercise to make sure my body doesn't fall apart. So after I do this, that's me for the day. So thanks for that advice. You have made me sort myself out. Right, let's go to the front line. You can see the legend on the video. I haven't done that joke for a long time. You can see the legend on the screen right now. And I'm here. Check it out if you don't know what the lines on my map mean. Anyway, moving on. We have the map that has been updated by JR. Thank you very much. He is a living legend. You can see yet again no changes to the northeastern axis from Kupiansk to Svatovo to Crimea here, showing no movement. Again, it's the best part of a week, apart from a tiny bit down here. But for the main part of this axis, we've seen no movement. That's incredibly good news, even though there are rumours that there are forces amassing. There are rumours that the Russians could be gearing up for an attack on Kharkiv. I mean, we're going forward here, maybe some big counteroffensive. You remember, Zelensky himself talked in the interview with CBS yesterday that the Russians are gearing up for a counteroffensive or an offensive in sort of May, June time is what he was saying. And the idea is that they need as much stuff as they can get before then. But yeah, it could be that Kupiansk is on the cards. I mean, if I was the Russians, I wouldn't be concentrating on this. I mean, for me, like I've said to you before, like this area here is... And that could be why Surovikin got in such trouble for doing that operational withdrawal when he did, because actually that makes it much harder for the Russians to ever consider getting this area back. But to be honest, you know, they really need Mykolaiv and Odessa. But of course, you know, even with 300,000 people, I just don't think they can do that. I don't think they've got the equipment and the ability to do that. And then, you know, this is a red line down here for the French. You know, if the Russians make a bid for Odessa, you're more likely to see French troops on the ground in Ukraine. So, you know, what would you do if you were the Russian, you know, morality aside, where the Ukrainians weakest? You know, again, I suppose it's areas down here. Take the whole Donbass, really. Finally get the Donbass, the rest of. So if you have a look here, this white dotted line, so if they got the rest of this area, then that's the rest of Luhansk. Donetsk is a little bit more challenging because it's a much larger area of land they don't have, comes all the way out here. So this is Donetsk, and they would want all of this area. But of course, yeah, it's easier said than done. You see how long it's taken them to take Bakhmut and Avdiivka. I mean, although Avdiivka fell quite quickly, they've been trying to take it for, well, 10 years. So, you know, anyway, I digress again, as is my want. Right, let's go to the Bakhmut area where there are some slight Ukrainian gains, interestingly. This could well be just some rejigging. I'm not really sure. As you can see, there are some vast differences between the mappers here. Andrew Perpetua's blue line and Deep State Map's yellow line is a lot further back in almost the entirety of this area of the southern Seversk front line here. So from Spirna past Berestova, past Vesele, and on to Rozdalivka area, we can see that, huge differences. So slight gains for the Ukrainians there. Might be some evidence to come out, might be a rejig rather than a counterattack. I'm not 100% sure. And then some gains for the Russians in an area that is worrying for me because it's on this high ground to the northwest of Ivaniska. Ivaniska is the village that they are moving through. Some Russians, the Russian MOD initially claimed that the Russians took control of the whole of Ivaniska, and then Syriac Maps went with that, but subsequently I think information has come out that was not what has happened, and I think Andrew Perpetua and Deep State Maps are far more accurate with their portrayal of what's going on there. But there's movement through to the south of Bodanivka, which is a small, long village to the northwest of Bakhmut here, and in between Chasiv and Bakhmut. This is an important place to keep hold of, Bodanivka. but also it's this area here that's really super important. This is on the high ground north of Avdiivka, so that kind of gain for the Russians, I think, is a problem, because you are much more likely to see that whole high ground then be ceded to the Russians. That then gives them the ability to move to the west, but also to have fire control over areas that are below that high ground. And that would not only include, quite quickly, not only include this Avdiivka area, but it would also include the area just to the north of there, which is this Bodanivka area. So as I was saying, that's an important area for the Ukrainians to keep hold of as a buffer zone. But as we spin around here, sorry, I'm moving quite a lot at the moment, you can see that high ground that they're taking across here allows them to then get fire control over the lower ground, which is the whole of Bodanivka as it comes into Chasiv Yar. So this high ground here is where the Ukrainians would want to stop the Russians. They won't really want the Russians to take control of that at all. So I'd say that is a slight concern, that they're moving across that high ground there. Right, moving on from Bakhmut, we come down past New York, Sumy, no change there. A little bit of a change. I mean, goodness me, this is the smallest change that we've seen in the whole of the Avdiivka front for some time. Actually, Surat Map did have their own tweet about that high ground being taken. The Russian army managed to capture the first trenches east of the Canal micro-district of Chasiv Yar city, which is now between 500 and 800 meters from the Russian forces. So inching towards Chasiv Yar, 800 meters there to the first sort of settlements of Chasiv Yar. Anyway, in the area of Avdiivka, you can see that Deep State Maps has some slight gains for the Russians up to the river in Orlivka. Still different to what Surat Maps says, with Russians gaining control of territory across the river. And I've been saying that would be a bit of a worry if that's the case, as would this area be a worry, I think, for the Ukrainians as well. But that's Surat Maps, and I wouldn't trust that is definitely what's happened. I don't want to go down that route again. I seem to repeat myself every day on that. Nonetheless, somewhat more stable perhaps for the Ukrainians. On the other hand, Surat Maps does say that the Ukrainians retreated from the northern part of Bedichi towards the western shore of the Durna River. No map changes for the rest of the front there, but that is the idea, that the Russians have caused the Ukrainians to pull out from here, that they are retreating back to the other side of the river. If that is true, it wouldn't be surprising at all. I think the Ukrainians are eventually going to set up shop to the west of the river anyway. It's on higher ground, at the moment they are still holding out in a number of places there. As we come out from Avdiivka, we come further to the south. No changes in the Krasnohorivka and Marinka area again. The fact that stabilised, that has been so stable for so long, I mean, it's going to be tremendous fighting going on, lots of drone activity and artillery and all sorts, but there have been no map changes there. It is only going to be good news for the Ukrainians. It is definitely challenging around Novomykhailivka, where the Russians are now moving quite critically, I think, to the north of Novomykhailivka through these farm fields, these large farm fields, and Andrew Perpetuan now taking it past Surat Maps' previous gains there, and then also agreeing with Surat Maps in what's happened within Novomykhailivka. So that is a concern. The Russians appearing to control over now quite considerably over half of the settlement, and it's kind of next stop Konstantinivka there. So that would be a real challenge for the Ukrainians. No Reports says that geolocated footage shows Russian forces northeast of the town and inside the centre. The area northeast was considered a grey zone, but now Russian control. Preliminary information states that the AFU have retreated to the western part, as yet unconfirmed, but that seems to be what most people agree on. Challenging there. I wonder what the Ukrainians are going to do about here going forward. Now, no changes to Velika Novosilka, no changes to Robotina there, and no changes to Dnipro River, apart from a small movement for Deep State Maps showing is that supposed to show Ukrainian gains? Yes, it is. So that is small Ukrainian gains there on the, I guess towards the southwest. It's been the case that the control zone, well, it's not that this is controlled by the Ukrainians, this is grey zone, but it seems to be shifting as a whole downwards to the southwest as the Russians are trying to push down from the northeast and the Ukrainians pushing down towards the southwest. So tiny gains there, I think, or a few gains there for bit of a gain for the Ukrainians possibly. Don't know what the future holds still for the Ukrainians there, whether they're just there to trick the Russian forces still. I can't say for certain, but it seems to be that is the case. Anyway, thanks for watching. That's the Frontline update for today. Please like, subscribe and share. Really appreciate your support. And please show some love for Joe Blogs, who's a fellow YouTuber who has had his entire account hacked and every single video deleted. He's set up Joe Blogs 2.0. Go and hunt that out and subscribe. He does great content on the economies, particularly of Russia. So yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen to anyone else. But fingers crossed and all that. In the meantime, take care. Speak soon.